Yeah, if you've got one of these, that'll be helpful. Okay, so we're going to, yeah, this kind of came on Monday. I was thinking about what should we do, and I thought it'd be interesting to work down into the legs, but not do standing work, and then do some core work. So it's drawing from really from the foundation training that we do. Okay, so I'd like us to start off lying down, have a belt at hand. There's nothing really kind of special here. It's I mean, the sequencing is new, but the posture work, it should be familiar. Okay, so we're going to come down into semi-supine, and it should feel quite grounding, given that it's working down into like the lower body, but it's more strengthening work. So we're going to be working like the abdominal area to some extent, the whole postural support in terms of core work, which we have been doing a little bit every week, and also into the legs. Okay, so I'd like you just to close the eyes for a moment and come into semi-supine, soles of the feet on the floor, and have a check-in with how you are. So we've got this special space now to do our practice together. So if you can, just letting everything else drop away just for the next hour or so, if it's possible. I'd like to connect with your breath. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is connect with the breath, and then we're going to move with the breath. If you can, feel the breath moving down into the belly area. So it might be helpful to rest your hands on the lower belly, across the front of the pelvis even. So the pace of the class is going to be fairly steady, like not fast. I think that, to be quite honest, it works better when we're working online, not to be doing really fast-paced sequences, because it's difficult to follow online that way. So it's going to have a kind of steady, gentle, you could see even slightly slow rhythm, but there is going to be movement. Okay, so I'd like to exhale and bring your left thigh towards you. Interlace the fingers around the back of the left thigh, just below the knee. Could bring your right leg more into the center line. So we're going to start off by, on an inhale, extend towards a straight leg, pushing against the hands. As the exhale, you fold the leg back into you. So it's a simple leg stretch with the hands interlaced around the back of the leg. As we inhale, we lengthen, moving towards a straight leg. It doesn't have to be completely straight. And I'd like you to become aware of engaging Pada Bandha. So as we inhale, there's a sense of broadening into the heel and into the balls of the feet. So the foot becomes active, particularly with the end of the inhale. Inhaling, extend. Do this 8 or 10 times. Okay, next time we inhale and extend, hold there. If you can hold the leg towards the vertical, I want you to extend your arms above the head along the floor. So you're really lengthening out, keeping the leg in the vertical, and extend your right leg along the floor. Hopefully it's not going to crash into anything. I'm just at my limit there. So if you need to adjust away from the wall or away from an object, so you want to bring both legs to straight, we're just holding the leg there into space, moving towards the vertical, extending the arms along the floor above the head. Exhale, release down. sole of the left foot on the floor, bend your right leg towards you and interlace the hands on the back of the right thigh. And we'll go through the same process on the right side. So as you inhale, extend, exhale, fold. So you can start off quite gently, the sense of like crawling into the body, waking up to your body experience. Exhaling, we fold, inhaling, we extend. And again, being aware of Padabandha in the foot. What it means is there's a sense of like engaging, like broadening and lengthening the foot. So it helps to engage the leg more fully when we engage Padabandha. The shoulders stay down. As we come towards the end of the inhale, yeah, you're pulling the shoulders towards the straight leg, sense of slightly working into trapeze area. Next, inhale, extend, hold for a moment or two. So we're gonna, the intention is to hold the leg there in the vertical, so it gets a little bit more intense on the thigh. Extend your legs, sorry, your arms along the floor above the head, and then extend down through the left leg. So we're extending the arms above the head, along the floor, extending the right leg towards the vertical. It may or may not be straight. The intention is to lengthen through the leg, expressing Padabandha in the right foot, and then extending down through your left leg, also along the floor, expressing Padabandha in the left foot. Connecting with the breath. And then we release. Bending the right leg. I'd like you to bring hands around both, well, one hand onto each knee, shall I say. And then just very gently floating the knees away on the inhale and floating the knees towards you on the exhale. Inhaling. So a gentle rock of the pelvis. Okay, the feet can float to the floor. So I'm going to suggest we do this with some either bricks or a bolster. So I'm going to use two foam bricks, or it could be like a bolster that's down by my left hip, so close into the left hip. What this will mean, you could use a cork brick as well, as it'll just give you a little bit of extra support, bringing your right foot to the floor, but the belt comes into the left foot. And then we extend the leg up. Start with a bent leg to begin with, holding the strap on each side of your foot, and then we're going to extend both legs out. So your right leg along the floor, left leg up towards the vertical, coming into Supta Padangusthasana. A sense of broad across the chest. One of the things I do enjoy about this pose is it, although we're working the legs, it does move awareness into the upper body. It's a way of sort of broadening and opening across the shoulder girdle. So we're still thinking about Padabandha, but we're working against the strap now. So before we were moving into space, now we're moving against the strap. So usually I instruct to place the belt across the balls of the feet, but you could try placing it in the center of the foot or even across the heel, as you know. Either way, exploring the leg, the foot in Padabandha, long toes broad across the toe base, one foot. So we take the strap now into the left hand only. If you can, you draw the leg towards you and we open out to the side, Pajva Supta Padangusthasana. So yeah, I'm now meeting my foam bricks. So it might feel like I'm not opening to my capacity, but that's okay. So it's like there's a sense of support. What it helps to do is lift the inner groin. Helps to keep the pelvis level. So if you're teaching beginners this, it can just feel more restful, having some support there around the outer thigh. Engaging the right leg. So even though this is like quite a strongly floor-based practice, it's quite active, as it were, on an internal level. It's not like a yin practice. It's a floor practice, but it is active. So it's a toning going on. Okay, inhaling to center. And we're going to take the belt, or the belts, both tails of the belts into the right hand. So I like to start off with keeping the pelvis level, and we just cross the thigh, cross the leg to the right. There's a real sense of trying to keep the back of the pelvis level on the floor. So you're not going to go into a full twist here. You could do that version. I find it helpful to place my left hand just on the top of the left thigh and gently push the top of the left thigh away from me. Feels like it's creating a little bit of space in the left hip. Again, both legs active, Padavanda, engaged. Okay, and then coming back to center and release. So I'm actually going to switch round because I've got a wall behind me. So set up on with you don't probably need to do that. You bring your blocks or a bolster into the right hip. I'd like you to place the belt across the right foot and extend both legs gradually. Noticing any differences between the two sides there. So we're moving towards a straight leg. It's like not obligatory to have a straight leg. That's the intention. The idea is to work into the leg, engage the bandhas, Padavanda. We're taking hold of the belt on either side of the foot, so like the two tails separately. So a sense of broad across the chest. So going back to my Iyengar training in the 90s, I used to really like doing the leg sequence last thing at night. So it was like a kind of evening practice. The leg stretches plus Supta Baddha Konasana. So it's at that time I was working in one of the evolution shops. So it's good to just stretch the legs out. And quite a calming practice. Okay, so also it's just worth bearing in mind that the inner legs, pelvic area is often quite tight in a lot of people, and it's worth just persistently working into that gently to create a sense of space, yeah, in the thighs, inner legs, pelvis, hip joint. So take the belt into the right hand only. If you can, you bring the leg a little bit more towards you, out to your side, the sense of externally rotating the leg a little bit. And again, if you're using a support there, you might find you're not going to your maximum opening, but that's fine. We're going for a supported opening. I could feel the inner leg engaging. On the right side, I'm activating the left foot and left leg, keeping the pelvis more or less level. Breathing now. Connecting again with the breath. If you can, breathing down into the belly area. A sense of continuously engaging the legs, just like the legs are active, not fighting with the pose, but the sense of the legs are on, active. And from here, coming up to center, taking hold of the belt just with the left hand now. So we're just going into this slight movement to the left now. So the idea is to try and keep the back of the pelvis, there's a sense of the weight being even through the back of the pelvis. It will shift to the left side, but so both sides of the sacrum down. You can use your right hand on your right top of the right leg to gently push that away. You'll see what later on we're going to come to a pose where we do this from the sitting position. So we could see this is kind of preparatory. Just engaging the muscles around the hip joint, leg, upper leg. Working more into the hip rotator. Again, a sense of continuously engaging and release. Back to center, bend both legs into semi-supine. You can discard the belt for now. Being aware of your legs, the pelvis. I'd like you to now roll to one side. So we are going to need a little bit of setup here. So we've done this before. It really is helpful now to have a wall. Okay, so do feel free to move back to a wall. It really is better, this pose with a wall. So we have I've got two foam bricks right against the wall. And I'm going to come bring the sacrum right back to the wall. Place a cork brick. So you really want a harder brick between the feet. And I move the sacrum back to the wall. So it's deliberately opening across the groins a little bit more than it would normally if you had the feet together, because you've got the feet separate. You know, if you've got more space there, you could even put the brick a bit wider. It wants to be sufficient to create some sense of opening across the groins. And then I'm not pressing through. I'm resting the forearms on the inner knees. That's like too much for me. I'm going to bring the brick edge on. I'm just going to rest the forearms onto the inner knee. And then I'm taking the back of the head back to the wall, the sacrum back to the wall. There's a sense of coming into vertical alignment here. This is almost a yin style pose. And we're going to just stay here for a minute or two. Allow this pose to soak down into the groins. So I find this also really helps to release across the sacroiliac joint, which is an area that I've got, can get quite tender. And you could, you know, if you really get into this pose, you could bring some weight onto the inner legs, but I don't think pressing really works. It's like you need to bring a passive weight, like sandbags, you know. I mean, I haven't done that for years, but some sort of weights, just light weights, a couple of kilos on each inner thigh, or inner thigh, inner knee. So you could close the eyes, tuning in with the breath. Also tuning in with a sense of your energy, your mood. The sense of feeling the contact with the walls of the sacrum, the upper back and the back of the head is meeting the wall. You feel it as a sense of opening with time. There's an element here of passive opening, allowing connective tissues to open, a sense of also releasing tension in that area across the groins. But working within your limits, yeah. So my daughter's she's only 7, but she's got really obsessed. I guess it's watching TikTok or something of doing like full splits. So she's getting the yoga mat out and trying to get her body into full splits, and I'm trying to tell her that she doesn't want to be forcing the body, etc. Respecting the innate anatomy structure of the body, so we should be aware of that, and working within respectable limits, respecting your body. Okay, that isn't to say that there's more space in there. It's a question of exploring. But yeah, you really don't want people standing on you or anything like that. She was trying to get me to stand on her. I just said, there's like no way. Got my first yoga injury doing that kind of thing. Okay, so from here, we're going to bring the knees in towards each other slowly. You could stay longer. I really like that pose myself. I'd like you to come onto your mat and take the legs wide. So I wouldn't normally do this pose so early on in a sequence, but we're going to do a sort of active sequence based on Upavista Konasana. So as you know, if this pose is really difficult for you, you can always sit on the corner of a brick, okay? So when I say sit on the corner actually comes out between the legs, okay? So the legs are supported. So I'd like us to come into Namaste. So we're going to do like a moving Upavista Konasana. So as we inhale, we'll take the arms up. And then as we exhale, I want us to take ourselves to the right side. Inhale, back up to center. Keeping the legs engaged, exhale, go to the left side. Inhale, back up to center. So we're going to do this a few times, 4 or 5 times on each side. Exhale, out to one side, alternating between the two sides in length and forwards and up as you change sides. There's a sense of engaging the legs up through the core of the body. Not forcing, but keeping the legs engaged, turning and exhaling. So we're orientating the chest towards the straight leg. Moving with the breath. One more time on each side. Keeping the movement quite light, quite graceful. And then inhale up to center, orientating yourself forwards. And then exhale, we're going to tip forwards over the pelvis and bring the hands just to wherever they come. Allow the body to come forwards. Breathing into this, but engaging. So it's not a passive leg stretch, it's engaging the legs, allowing the body to come forwards. This has always been one of my least favorite poses, I have to say, but it's a good one to do, yeah. In terms of working the inner legs. Extending through to Padabandha, so we're aware of the feet, engaging the feet. Often I instruct students to think about their feet being in the vertical, even though they might want to roll in or roll out, depending on your hip structure. So some people are going to have internally rotated hips, so the feet roll in. The majority of people have externally rotated hips, so the feet want to roll out. From there, inhaling up, once again, active, and we'll just do that 4 or 5 times more on each side. Exhale to one side, inhale up to center, keeping the movement quite light. As you come up, inhaling, growing your spine, turning, exhaling, growing the spine up to the crown. And then once again, up to center and coming forwards, down through the center line. So the chest is orientated between the legs, down the center line. Activating the legs. So I've been on a brick. I'm going to come off the brick for a moment just to try have an experience of being off the brick. Okay, then from here, so we're facing forwards. I'd like us to roll to the right. So we're turning the chest towards the ceiling. So you may be able to take hold of the foot with the right hand. You may not reach, but we're turning out to the left. It's a sense of turning and looking up towards the ceiling, lengthening through both sides of the body, a lateral stretch here. Both legs active. So your left leg is anchoring as you move to your right. Exhale, rotating back to center carefully and rotate to the other side. Opening out. So you can think or feel down into the right foot and engage the right leg. So I'm noticing my right sitting bone wants to lift off the floor. So see if you can sink weight down into the right sitting bone. Staying anchored in the pose, right leg active. And then exhaling, folding back to center, or we should say orientating back to center. And releasing yourself into a forward fold. I'm going to say releasing, so you might find there's a little bit more space after that work we've done. If the floor is getting anywhere nearer and the brick is helpful, it can be useful to rest the head for a moment. If the floor is like miles away, that's just a really unhelpful instruction. I mean, you could, if you've got chairs, you could go around offering people a chair if they're really not coming forward very much. It can be helpful to rest the head for a few moments. Releasing around the shoulders, still engaging the legs, so the legs still on, Padabandha. On an inhale, we carefully restack the spine. Okay, so we've been there for quite a while. Take hold of your outer legs, draw the feet in. Okay, and then I'd like us to come down onto the back again, into semi-supine. Okay. Good. So we're going to come back to some more leg work in a moment. But we're going to move now more into like you could say the abdominal area, or that space between the pelvis and the rib cage. So again, we've done this before in classes. You've done this with me before, so I'll describe it and do it, and then you can join in. So as you exhale, you pick up the head and look through the legs and pick up the arms. And then as you inhale, you release the spine back down. And then as you exhale, you push the pelvis up towards bridge. Inhale, lift the arms over the head. Exhale, the arms stay where they are, but we lower the pelvis back down. And then inhale the arms back to the original position. So you may want to play with the distance between the feet. So I'll just go through that again. Exhale, you pick up the chest, the eyes, look through the legs, arms lifting. Inhale, release down. I learned this off Padmadashini. Exhale, lift the pelvis, bridge. Inhale the arms above the head, long waist. Exhale, long waist, the arms stay above the head. Inhale the arms back alongside. So that's like a 6-part movement. So we'll do that a few rounds on our own. I'll talk through one more time. Exhale, looking through. Inhale, release down. So you do need to follow your own breath here. Exhale, lifting into the bridge. Inhale, the arms come above the head. Exhale, lower the pelvis, keeping the waist long. Inhale, arms by yourself. So it should feel quite secure, quite stable, but also strengthening. We're engaging the whole of the front of the body with that lift. And then we're lengthening the part of the waist area with the bridge. Lengthening through the upper back area with the arms above the head. Lowering down. Controlled movement. And inhale the arms back to your side. So all of the big movements, strong movements we do with the exhale, lifting up on the exhale. Looking through the feet. Down. The inhale. Exhale, bridge. Inhale, arms. Exhale, lower the pelvis. Inhale, arms back. So I'm going to keep quiet for the next 3 rounds. Just do that with our own breath. Consciously moving with the breath. So making this now the last round. Yeah, for me it feels quite integrating. So it's pulling the body together. And just come into semi-supine for a moment, resting there. Checking in on your neck. So there is a thing of flexing the neck there. Being aware of that area. As we come up into bridge. Okay, and then what we want now is something firm. Like it could be a firm cushion. Would probably be ideal, but you could also I'm going to use a cork brick between the legs. So I want to build this up so it might be useful if you're teaching beginners. So the idea is to gently hug the cushion or the cork brick I've got it just between the thighs, okay, near the knees, okay. And then interlace the fingers around the back of the head, soles of the feet stay on the floor. So what's important with these movements is we're not pulling up, they're not pull-ups, it's more like gathering up through the center line. So we're engaging the abdominal rectus, I think it is, the long muscle down the front of the body. So as we exhale, you're going to look between the legs. The hand is supporting the head. And you inhale, you release down. So the danger with this is, who's got neck issues, it might be too much. So you're not pulling up. I will repeat a few times. Exhale, looking down. Inhale, releasing. And as you exhale, allow the abdominal area to move down towards the floor. The elbows stay relatively wide. Okay. So you're like peeling away the upper back from the floor, not forcing. So the power of these movements comes through repetition. Should gently warm the front of the body. Sense of the face relaxed, the eyes relaxed, feet engaged with the floor, the inner legs very slightly engaged, sense of hugging into the center line. So it adds to a sense of integrity in sort of the core of the body. So it's like the inner legs, pelvis, belly, lower back. Okay, releasing down for a moment. So the hands can stay there. I want you to float your shins now parallel to the floor. So this is a bit more intensive. So the back of the pelvis is on the floor, but it might be that the lower vertebrae are not on the floor. Okay, so there's not necessary to flatten the back here towards the floor. You can keep a little bit of space, even though physically you might not be able to get anything underneath there, but there's a sense of the lower vertebrae are not on the floor. Okay, there's a gentle lordosis there. So we'll do the same thing. So the feet together, the inner legs gently hugging, and exhale, we pick up, looking through the legs. Inhale, release down, shins stay more or less parallel to, well, feeling parallel to the floor, probably not literally parallel. Sense of gathering towards your center line, towards the belly. The elbows stay fairly wide, okay, so they can move in towards each other. But what we're not doing is pulling, so the hands are there to support the head weight, more like a guide. So one trick you can do here is separate the hands and just rest the tips of the fingers on either side of the skull. So you're really guarding against pulling with the arms, yeah? It's more like cradling the head and doing the work down through the front of the body. Okay, we're going to release down. Let's take the brick out for a moment and resting into semi-supine. One of the things I noticed with this is like the energy I can really gather. It's almost like a sense the blood gathers into the belly area. I'm sure it's not quite literally like that. So just for a moment, expand your awareness out into your hands, into your feet, into your head, whole body awareness. allowing the body to breathe, full breath. Okay, I'm going to do one more movement here. So I'd like to place the support between the legs again. Float the shins parallel to the floor. Interlace the fingers around the back of the head, or have them, the fingertips lightly resting on either side of the skull. So what we're going to do is think about the right rib cage moving towards the left thigh. So it's a rotation. So as you exhale, there's a sense of turning to one side. Inhale, back to center. I'm just resting the fingertips lightly on the side of the head. So I'm really trying to work from the rib cage, alternating between the two sides. Exhale, moving my right ribs to the left thigh, and then left ribs to the right thigh. So as I inhale, I go all the way back to the floor, and then pick up from the floor with the exhale. So the support between the legs is there just to give a little bit of resistance to work again. So the sense of moving the inner legs towards each other. Aware of the back of the pelvis on the floor and the lower vertebrae adopting their natural lumbar lordosis curve. Doing as many repetitions as feels sensible and comfortable, maybe doing one more, and then you're going to come back into resting, into semi-supine. Sense of broad across the back of the pelvis. Feet grounded. You can rest the hands once again onto the lower belly area, reconnecting with the breath. Expanding your awareness out into your limbs, into the hands, into the feet, to the head. Okay, then rolling to one side. Yeah, this is not on my sheet, but we have to do this. Yeah, so we're going to come into the plank. So this has got to be there really for this sequence. So I'm just going to do a very simple plank where my forearms are down, palms together. I'm lengthening back out from all fours. And so you can do this where you stay on your knees and bring the shoulders, knees, and hips into line. That's definitely like a beginner's plank version. But if you can, you engage your legs. And yeah, strong pose. It's like a kind of classic strengthening pose. Like Ruben which is like the other son was showing me this the other day. Like he just discovered him and his mates. Okay, so coming down and release for a moment. Just let the belly rest on the floor. So last week we were doing this plank and then we're doing side plank. So we'll just do one more plank, okay? So maybe change the hand position. I'm going to go for forearms parallel now, arms grounded. And starting off, it's like a low all fours and then moving into the plank position. So the sense of, yeah, it's working. You can feel it working the whole of the front of the body. Careful with your neck, sense of the neck long, legs engaged. Obviously, it's working the legs around the gluteal area, belly, chest. And release when you're ready. Yeah, you can always, if you're really into that pose, you can build it up with a timer. I've never done that, but you could. One could. Okay. Okay, from there, I'd like us to come up into sitting. So I'm going to sit facing the camera. And this is a little sequence based, well, the starting position is Marichyasana, Sukha Marichyasana. So my right leg is folded in onto itself. And my left shin is in the vertical. So I think we did this as well last week, a twist, but we're going to do some leg work here. So one of the things that we really want to look out for, actually, I think it's going to be helpful for me to turn sideways, is not to collapse into the lower back, okay? So we're really trying to lift from the sitting bones to the crown. Sense of gathering the ribcage up, lengthening through the axis, okay? And then we're going to take hold of the outer left foot with the right hand and the inner left foot with the inner left foot, yeah, with the left hand, okay? And then you float up the leg, and it may or may not come to a straight leg, okay? So wherever it comes to, I haven't been doing this much, so this is not, I'm not going to get a straight leg here. But what we really don't want to compromise is the length through the lumbar spine, and we don't want to be collapsing down into the lumbar spine, so trying to avoid doing that, okay? So a sense of lifting up the rib cage. So my right leg is gently grounding. So I'm going to take my left hand closer to the heel of the left foot, extending through the left foot, and then bring my right hand down to the right side, and we're going to open out to the left leg. I'm just going to change my position in relation to the camera there. So you take the left leg out to the side now. Again, try to think about the spine coming towards the vertical, gathering up through the center line. I would say it's more important to be clear about the spine being straight towards the vertical axis than straightening the leg. Okay, so we all want to straighten the leg when we first do this, but then you end up really distorting the spine, okay? Inhale back to center, and then taking hold of the outer left foot with your right hand, we're going to slightly bring the foot and leg across to the right now. So the left hand drops down to the floor, similar to what we did at the beginning in Supta Padangusthasana. So a sense of growing the spine again up through your center line. So if it's helpful, maybe take your left arm up and draw up through that center line, reaching up. So if you remember, we did this along the floor, extending the left arm up, growing your spine, and then release down. Okay, so we'll do the same thing on the other side. Taking hold of, first of all, embracing the right shin. Taking hold of the inner right foot with the right hand, outer right foot with the left hand, lifting up. Not, like I say, not worrying about straightening the leg, that's the direction. What's important is to have a sense of gathering up through your axis, growing the spine, the crown going up. Shoulders releasing down away from the ears. Connecting with the breath. So it's a broad across the tops of the shoulders. Okay, taking hold with just the right hand, the inner right foot, and opening Pajva. Left hand could go down by your side. Again, guarding against distorting the spine. Can be quite difficult to see that or feel that. Breathing now. Maybe helpful to take the gaze slightly up to help get a sense of lifting through the spine. And then back to the center line and change the hands. So my left hand now, outer right foot. I'm taking the leg across me, across my belly. Taking the right hand out to the side, or you could go up towards the vertical line to have a sense of growing your spine, growing out of the pose. It's a surprisingly simple pose, but it can feel quite elegant, quite complete. Growing out of your spine, so being aware of what's going on in the lower back. I would say it doesn't really work, this sequence, with if you've got lower back issues really present, can feel quite strong on the back. Something maybe to work towards, okay. Growing the spine there. Okay, and releasing down. And what I'd like us to do now is just roll over the legs or whatever to come into all fours and open out the backs of the legs in dog pose. It's going to be like the one and only dog pose today. So opening out the backs of the legs, sense of length through your waist. Ears in line with the upper arms. Again, aware of Padabandha in the feet, broadening, lengthening the toes, broadening across the base of the toes, lengthening the foot. Okay, and then come down. And I'd like you to place both feet in front of you. So I'm going to come into, or having a go at, Navasana. So again, I'm going to do this as though we were beginners, but I think that can be useful because there's a sense of vinyasa krama building it up. So the first position is sitting with the feet gathered in towards me, not too close, but then I'm embracing my shins in order to really feel like I'm lengthening through the spine, almost exaggerating that lengthening up. Even, yeah, almost a sense of extending the spine, okay. So I've got my arms around the front of the shins. You can even bring the sense of bringing the weight forward. And I'm going to bring the arms around the back of the shins. So I'm going to sort of fold my arms behind the backs of the legs and then float the feet up. So the shins come parallel to the floor. Still a sense of growing the spine. I'm resting on what's sort of in between the tailbone and the sitting bones. But it's almost like I'm going to fall forwards rather than fall back. Breathing there. So looking at your feet, engaging Padabandha in the feet, long toes, and broad across the feet. And then release down for a moment. I'd like us to bring the feet forwards and just gently release forwards into the thighs. Relax or release around the shoulders and the upper back, the lower back. Regather yourself up to the vertical line, arms around the back of the thighs. So we're floating back up into this position with the legs, the shins parallel to the floor. So now we're going to explore extending one arm at a time, parallel to the legs. So the legs stay bent. So you can lengthen out through both arms. Again, looking at your feet again. Breathing there. So we're like holding the legs up in space. So it gets more intense now. Got my palms facing each other. Growing the spine up. Breathing now, balancing somewhere between the sitting bones and the tailbone. Try not to collapse back into the lumbar, and then release again, forwards and down. Soles of the feet on the floor. Allow yourself to release into your legs. So my legs are slightly, knees are separating. Reconnecting with your breath. Okay, and then one last version. So we're going to have a go at doing the full Navasana. So this time we're going to bring the arms forward of the shins. I'm like holding my wrist with the hand, with the opposite hand, and embracing the tops of the shins to lengthen up. So I really want to be thinking about growing the spine. So I'm going to rock back slightly so the feet float off the floor, and then I'm going to explore extending both the legs and the arms all at the same time for a moment or two. So just see how you get on with that. So you might not going to hold that for very long. So the arms parallel to the floor, the legs are sort of shooting up between, like the bows of the boat, I guess. And the arms parallel to the floor, we're lifting. Like really not my favorite pose. Or it might not be anybody's favorite pose, but it's quite satisfying. And then release down. Okay, soles of the feet on the floor. I'm separating my feet a bit, bringing them forwards and allowing my upper body then to rest over the legs. So I think we should have another go at that, okay? So feet together. I'm embracing the top front shin with the forearms. I'm growing the spine. So I'm drawing the trapeze down, taking the gaze up towards the horizon. So I'm already tall as I can be in the legs, in the spine. And I rock back and just in your own time, yeah, coming up. Exploring straight legs, straight arms. Breathing there. So I guess you could move into, yeah, one of the gentler versions where you take your hands around the back of the thighs if that's too strong. It's one of the benefits of teaching Vinyasa Kramas. You can always bring your students back a step, extending through the arms and release. And release forwards. Breathe for a moment. Okay, great. So what I wanted to do was like a rolling thing. So I learned this years ago. So what we do here is you bring your feet together. My knees are slightly apart, and I'm taking my hands around the lower shin, and I'm just rolling over the spine. You do need quite a soft, not too hard. Okay, so you're rolling from the tailbone to the upper back between the shoulder blades a few times. It's like how to describe it? A kind of ball rolling. You're making the body into a ball shape, the spine into a curl. So we'll do just that 5 or 6 times. and then come down onto the back of the body. I remember the first time I saw, it was my girlfriend at the time doing it. I thought, that's not yoga. I was still very kind of under Iyengar cloud at that time. So, okay, so I want you to bring the inner legs together now, and you can rest the hands around the back of the head, for example. And we're going to come into a very simple supine twist. So bring the thighs towards you, moving the legs to the right or to the left. If it suits you better to open the arms out, then take the arms into whatever form you wish. So coming into a simple twist. Shoulders releasing, neck releasing. Releasing the structures around the lower back, the hips, that we've been working into. Checking that you're releasing as fully as you can between the shoulder blades, the neck, relaxing the face, the eyes. And very gently changing sides. So remembering with the twist, you want to bring the shoulder blades down, sort of sinking the shoulders, and maybe both legs come to the floor. So if they don't easily come to the floor, obviously you bring some support either under the outer leg or between the legs. But the point is to try and get the shoulder blades down, sinking down. Reconnecting with the breath here. And connecting with the whole body. So expanding your awareness out into the limbs, into the hands, into the head, away from the area we've been working on. Come back into center. And I'd like us to get together some gear to do some sort of supported shoulder stand. So when I say supported shoulder stand, I mean, you could do this thing where you put the brick underneath the sacrum. That's quite intense, okay? But if that's too intense, then what I had in mind were the 4 bricks. But not everybody's going to have all this gear, I guess. Having the 4 bricks under the sacrum, under the buttocks is gentler, okay? Okay, so what I wanted to come here and expand the chest, open the chest, lift and broaden the rib cage, arms down by the side. Don't need to do really exaggerated opening of the chest, but take advantage of the position to create that space. And then we're going to float one leg at a time up to the vertical. And we're looking for relatively restful. Okay, so you could likewise do legs up the wall here. Viparita Karani. Again, we can be aware of gently expressing Parabandha through the legs into the feet. Care with the neck. So we're going to do like 20 breaths here. Allowing the belly to fill, allowing the lower ribs to fill.
My inner legs gently engaging, so the feet together. Sense of the legs poised over the pelvis. So one of the benefits of this pose is a sense of decompression in the lower spine, decompressing the space between the lower vertebra. So it's one of the, you could say, downsides of that. Some of that work we've been doing is a sense of compressing or collapsing into the lumbar. So this will help to open out, compensate. Checking your neck is freeing, releasing. Sense of space across your collarbones, between the shoulder blades, even. You can work to engage the legs here, or be more quiet in the legs. Up to you. So we can come back to awareness of Padabandha. Broadening, lengthening of the feet, broadening, lengthening the toes, across the toe base, across the heel. Also lengthening both the front and the back ankle. There's a creating space in the ankle joint. Connecting with the breath. So I'm not counting 20 breaths actually, but the intention is just to spend a bit of time here. As I said, you could, as an alternative, use the wall and go for a more passive Viparita Karani. Just kind of going that way. Slightly more active as we're balancing the legs over the pelvis. So when we're ready, we're going to bring one foot down, the other foot. Lifting just a little bit your pelvis. You can get your gear out of the way. Just going to check. Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, we're going to set up into Shavasana. I had a sense that we were getting into about just over an hour there. So do make sure you're going to be warm enough, okay, for Shavasana. We'll do like a couple of minutes. Well, we'll do longer actually. So we won't come into meditation pose. That's something you could do if you wish afterwards. I'm just going to get a bolster for the back of the thigh. And yeah, my favorite setup is a bolster under the knees, some support for the head. When you lie down, checking your alignment, okay, so spending a little bit of time organizing yourself, so a sense of a long waist, long neck, broad upper back, and you're definitely going to be warm enough. I wanted to focus on that area, the pelvis, legs, and to some extent like core work, sort of front of the body, creating a sense of strength. So it can feel like we've done quite deep work with this particular posture work. In Shavasana, completely letting go. So it's like we're working groups of muscles that don't get a lot of attention necessarily. In terms of talking about the core, personally, I prefer this idea that the core of the body is not just the abdominal area, but it involves the whole sort of muscles that wrap around the spinal column and are involved with postural stability. So that's how I prefer to think about core work. So for that reason, you could say that the back work that we were doing last week also helps to create that sense of strength and stability in the spine, particularly Shalavasana, Bhujangasana. But we wouldn't necessarily think of core work and that those poses. I would like to include them, at least my thinking around core work. Sense of like postural integrity, postural stability, uprightness. So from here, we're just releasing out now, feeling aware of the belly, being aware of the emotions. You can completely surrender the arms, the legs to the floor. I'm going to let you stay there for as long as you like. Do feel free to stay for a few more minutes. Just like to say, I really appreciate you coming along and making it happen. And it may well be that it's me next week again. Okay, so Sadat is staying with his parents at the moment, so he's just got no physical space to
to run the class. So I may well be teaching from my parents' place next week. They have got a bit more